Welcome to our very astute agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 528. Let me just start by saying it's good to be back. I appreciate all the hundreds of messages from you all telling me how much you missed me last week. So that was very, very heartwarming. I said to Tim, I've got a couple things I can share during the call if it lags, but in the meantime, let's see what you guys want. Tim?
I want to hear you lagging. I want to see you backfill and, cover time. And you can do it, Jim. You can do it.
I know I can, but I'd rather hear what our people have to say.
Just housekeeping stuff to start with. Remember, folks, this is your call. You know how to make it work. Down at the bottom of the screen is the React button. You click on the React button, you'll see a line that pops up that says raise hand, and that will cause your little hand to go up on your icon just like mine did. And we'll call on you. We'd love to hear from you about your wins, your good news, your challenges, or anything else that you would like to talk about today. That's the purpose of this call. We talk to each other during the week, and we want to talk to you now. So if you have stuff to cover, we'd like to hear about it. Obviously, we have a win of the week program. If you got something cool, you can knock $100 off your next month's goods and services from us by sharing a great win. We'd love to hear about that. And we'd love to hear about your challenges as well. What's not going right? What are you running into? What have you run into? All that sort of stuff. See a lot of familiar faces. Winston, good to see you back. Haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. Glad to see you there.
Winston, I saw your number come up on my voicemail this morning. Did you get what you needed? You good? Okay, good.
Good deal. So with that having been said, Jim, why don't you take off with one of your stories there, Bubba?
By the way, Joe Facenda, I like your banner there, out of town landlord. I'm curious, is that so the tenants don't call you, or is that a is that a marketing pitch? If you want to comment on that, I would be interested to know. All right, well, I'll start with a couple things. I had a great conversation with one of our subscribers, Angela. I don't think she's on the call, but super nice lady. She's been with us a little over a year. She was considering whether to continue or not. She told me that she has been aggressively mailing. She has appointments today, aggressively calling. Unfortunately, her average sales price is just a little over $100,000. So she said in the time she's been with us, a little over a year, she was only a couple $1,000s positive. And of course, the first thing I did was congratulate her on knowing her numbers, because she was way ahead of most agents. She understood. And I also reminded her that over time, if she works these leads that she's getting properly, like our friend Roger Lacey does, there can be a lot of referrals if she takes all these people and adopts them into her sphere of influence. She did say appointments today was setting her a lot of appointments, and I don't know what her exact number of deals was, but I think her biggest problem was her average sales price being so low. So what her and I came up with was reduce the blended cost of her leads by adding late mortgage, because she was paying nearly $4 a lead for the probate leads. When we factor in the reduced cost of late mortgage at $1.25, all of a sudden now she's reducing the cost of her leads. If she just do the same number of deals, twice as many, maybe by adding the late mortgage, she can be more profitable. And I don't know if the other coaches would have any other. She said she was going to be on the call. I don't see her, but first of all, I think it's a win that she's doing everything we recommend. Of course, she could make the calls herself, and that would make her a lot more profitable. But she's a pretty busy agent. She didn't have the time or the inclination to do that. So I would just throw it out to, would any of the other coaches have any other advice for her in that situation?
I have a quick question. Why is her selling price so low?
She's in Oklahoma City.
Right.
I guess that's not an affluent market. I don't know that much geographically about it, but she said the average profit on her probate deals was somewhere around 125,000. I mean, the average sales price was around 125,000.
There are a lot of very, very nice, significantly way more expensive suburbs of Oklahoma City and than that kind of price point. I just wonder where she's focusing her marketing, because I mean, Oklahoma City is a great big town with lots and lots of big, pretty houses. There are a lot
Well,
of them.
if
That's a
I
very,
figured wherever it is, you probably lived there at one time, Tim. So
oh, but
maybe
my brother did.
I'm sure of it. I'm positive. I don't know the answer to that question, but she was just sharing that. It was anecdotal, obviously, based on what she's gotten out of probate. I don't know if they have any exemptions. You know, like, of course, not too much under 100,000. So don't know the answer to that question, but it's a good question.
Well, I suspect that she's probably marketing. I mean, there are certainly areas of Oklahoma City that are very much kind of inner city areas that, there are houses of that price point, but the suburban areas aren't that way at all. And I'm just wondering if also asking her, how come that's the case? Are you not getting conversations with anybody with a, more expensive property? Because they're definitely available.
Yeah, remember though, these are the probate leads she got. So she wasn't choosing her target. She was going with, what she had to work with. And you're right. Maybe she's better at converting the cheaper ones for some reason. That
Yeah,
could be a skill.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
a strange for today's market. That's an incredibly low price point.
yeah. But the gist of it for me is that with the success that we've had with the late mortgage, that if you want to blend down the average cost of your leads, that's a great addition because they are significantly less expensive. Bruce, anything you would add to that conversation or not?
Nothing to add to changing out the price of leads or anything like that. I will say that it is important that we know our numbers. And when I'm setting my marketing budget specifically, including cost of leads, including if an ISA is calling, including cold mailers, including warm marketing material after a conversation, then generally speaking, I want my overall cost to convert a deal to be somewhere around 10 to 15% of the average commission that I make or the average profit I make. So if my average profit is $10,000, that means that I can spend 1,000 or 1,500 to convert that deal. So you need to kind of understand what your conversion rate is first. Knowing my conversion rate, it means that once I put someone in my pipeline, I've had a conversation, I can spend $61 on them.
Sure.
It also means that my average cold lead, I can spend about $11 per cold lead, including the cost of leads, including mail, potentially including someone to call. That helps me hit my numbers. And I think that it's important to know our projection or our target that well. It's not vital, but I do think it's important to be able to game plan your business like that. And once you know your numbers, you can formulate all kinds of fun strategies.
I know we were doing her mail for her, so I know, I suggest also she could fine tune her letters, she alternate postcards, maybe save a little bit of money there. It's funny though, so I know her marketing was good and it was efficient. The same day I got a couple things in the mail. I don't know if you can see this, but one of them, talk about stupid marketing. One of them was from Verizon, invitation to a Mother's Day party last Sunday, and it arrived today. And the other thing that just blows me away, I don't know if any of you guys get this Uline catalog. It's like a miniature phone book. I don't know if you can see that, but Pam and I have been getting one of these a month for 20 years. I can't imagine what the postage is on something like this. We've never ordered products from this company, and they've been sending us one of these catalogs for 20 years. I've called several times to try to get them to stop, and we just put it right into recycle every month. So, so I guess the lesson of that is don't do dumb marketing, but fine tune your marketing also, and it could obviously go with stuff that works, and that'll improve your ROI.
Well, Sorry, I'm supposed to raise my hand, but anyway, is a really good point. A lot of agents and investors spend time marketing to an unknown audience. Let's pretend you're an agent and you've got a farm area, and I'm all for farming. I'm all for geographic farming, but you're marketing blindly into a farm area with people that in the typical neighborhood at best year 5% of the neighborhood is going to turn over. And so you're building a name for 5% of the neighborhood to turn over. When you're marketing into a probate list cold, you're looking at 35 to 50% of that list turning over year. So what's the better investment? Marketing into a neighborhood where you've got a 5% chance of putting a message in front of someone that's going to sell, or marketing into a probate list or a divorce list or something like that where you've got 30 to 50% that are going to sell. You got to be smart about it and then ask yourself, okay, what's it going to take to be the top person in their head when that time comes?
And Bruce, late mortgage fits that bill too. I wonder what the percentage is of people that get 90 days behind on their payments that end up having to sell. I would suspect it's pretty high, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of them need to sell. I'd be curious to see how many of them actually do. It's got to be really high. I don't have the data on that, but it's got to be really high.
Yeah. It's interesting when we were doing the short sale calls. I don't see my friend Bruce, I'm sorry, Joel on here today, but somebody asked me one time, what percentage of people that get foreclosed never contact anyone? And I Googled and I couldn't find a single thing about it. And I just guessed on the next call. I said, my guess would be about 70% of the people who put their head under a rock. They go into hibernation. They wait till it's too late, never contact anyone for help. And then a couple months later, I Googled and I saw, according to some experts, 70% of all the people in foreclosure never called anyone. And I always wondered if I was really accurate or if they were using my quote to base that statistic on. I'll probably never know. But I would suspect with late mortgage is probably pretty similar. It's like although with late mortgage, it should be less because you have the option of listing with the realtor and selling it. You don't have that. There's nothing I can do about it like you do with the short sale. Tim, that's about.
I'm going to have to hop off for a minute.
Okay, sure. Bill, any comments on the conversation so far?
That was really interesting. I just Googled that and nothing came up.
See, that's because we haven't done our short sale calls in a while. It's old news.
Right. But, it's been my experience that when people get 60 days down, they just don't ever get caught up unless someone dies or they're a commission employee and all of a sudden they have a windfall. I'd say the biggest thing that shocked me was there was not more foreclosures after COVID because everyone did that forbearance thing, didn't make their payments and went and bought new cars. But the banks in California are continually working with the homeowners. I mean, so I'm not sure what the percentage is, but I definitely think that if you're 60 days down, it's got to be at least 50%.
Yeah, as most of you know, Pam and I had 100 rental properties when the market crashed. We got real good at doing short sales with our own properties. And then Pam and I started a short sale company, but she's done a couple thousand of them. And for whatever reason, at one time she was doing 20 or 30 of them a month.
Yeah.
I think she did 5 last year. And now all of a sudden she's working on about a dozen of them. Something has changed. And that's why I think the late mortgage leads are timely also. Some kind of a switch has flipped recently where there are a lot more of them than there were before. And like you said, I don't know exactly what it is that precipitated that, but it's we go on vacation now and sometimes she works more than I do, which I hate that. But she's every day she's working, she's getting a new lead or two, and her experience with them is the banks, if anything, they're a little easier to deal with now. In one way, they don't have dedicated departments set up anymore like they used to, but in another way, they're a little easier to deal with because they're not bogged down with a whole lot of them. So, but the actual parameters seem to be about the same. You know, you got to owe more than it's worth, and you got to have some hardship. You know, I don't think that's changed a whole lot. Winston, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to go back, Jim, to the conversation about the lady that said she's only made a couple thousand with her investment for a year. I remember from some old Mike Ferry training from years ago that every happy client in time is worth 5 referrals. So I'm thinking what she needs to be doing is working with the folks that are inheriting the funds from the estate and either helping them buy a first home, invest in a second home, ask for referrals. She just needs to put a little effort and a little energy into that. And I'm sure her return on her investment would be much higher.
No, great point. We often tell people that we've had so many stories of people that, you know, there either wasn't any real estate, or by the time they reached the executive, the real estate was sold. And they just asked that extra question, you know, is there anything I can help you with, you know, investing those funds? Because you remember the average estate is still probably well over, you know, I think it's about $250,000 nationwide. You know, even without real estate, it could be a life-changing inheritance for them. There could be stocks and bonds and all kinds of other things where we've had many stories where they said, yeah, I want to sell my house. I want to buy a much nicer one, or I want to buy some investment property. We've had agents that have recruited them to do hard money lending, you know, so yeah, that's a great point, Winston. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I had an old timer back when I first got in the business. I learned everything the hard way until I actually met Mike Ferry, but he told me if you don't ask, you don't get.
Mm-hmm.
So ask the question.
Yep. Great question, or great point, I mean. Bruce, Tim, I'll let you take back over the MC duties if you would care to. Are you still?
I don't know where Tim is. I don't need
Oh,
MC duties. I'll
yeah,
do them if you want.
No, go ahead, Bruce.
Keep it.
No,
I was going to
just
say, you know, you call people and they say, hey, we already sold the house. And you're like, hey, I just got this list yesterday. And I called and I got 3 people that had already sold, or I got the list last month and 4 of them have already sold. This isn't a viable lead source for me. That's BS. I don't offer resources in the probate space. I don't prospect, market to probate leads that are going to sell that fast. I recognize that 5, 10, 15%, let's say it's 20% in some markets, have to go fast. They don't have any money. There's mortgages on the house. They got to sell. If I am fortunate enough to catch them on the phone or get them to call me back, how many other people are they answering for or calling back off of their mail? I'm walking in without any separation in my authority or credibility at all. I'm an unknown person just like everybody else that they called back or answered the phone for, and we're all on an equal footing. When I market to and prospect probate, and I realize we got so many more. I'm not trying to steer the conversation toward probate. That's just my thing. But when I go for them, I'm going for the 80% that aren't going to sell in the first month. I'm going for the people that I can separate myself over 6 months. And I promise you, if you do a good job focusing on the people that are going to take a little while before they make the decision or take action on selling property, you will convert a very high percentage of them if you're focused on filling the pipeline above it, all else.
Yep. Great point.
Yeah, and the thing that I want to add is the pond, right? All these leads, eventually you're going to have a conversation. I should say all the leads, but most of these leads, you're going to have some conversation going some deeper, or they're going to pick up on something, or you're going to have a correct email address, or they're interacting with your home bot. They're a future deal. I've had many where I did not sell the probate, but I ended up selling their children or relatives a home or sold their home. I mean, it's just a great way to build your referral base because you have pretty accurate information.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anybody anything you want to, you want to talk about, you want to share with us? We're looking for our win of the week. Anybody want to share anything? Anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand. In the meantime, Bruce, I'll throw out one other conversation I had, something we haven't talked about in a while. I talked to a gentleman who been in the business for about 40 years, and he was just getting a little bit tired. He was working the leads. He was doing more mail than phone calls. He was kind of burning out a little bit on making the phone calls. And we talked about appointments today, and I think he's considering that. But he asked me a question that I've heard you go over before that we haven't talked about lately. He said, if he's calling, and we talked about late mortgage and we talked about divorce, and he was pretty comfortable with how to handle probate, but he said, especially with the late mortgage and the divorce, if I don't reach him, should I leave a voicemail, and what should I say? I don't want to say, hey, I know your house is in foreclosure, or hey, congratulations on the divorce. Not congratulations, but I know you're going, could be congratulations. You never know, but probably won't take it that way. But anyway, and I know you've answered that before, but we haven't talked about it in a while. We may want to talk about that a bit.
Voicemails and refocus me on which type of lead we're calling to decide on voicemails.
Well, he was primarily, he said typically with probate, he leaves a voicemail, hey, I was calling, noticed you're the executor, here's how I can help you. And I know you don't always feel with the first few calls, that's the best approach. But his main question was, in adding divorce and late mortgage, was what kind of a voicemail would I leave for that? I obviously don't want to tell him I'm calling because you're going through a divorce, or I know you're in foreclosure.
So I'm gonna probably hot potato the question to Bill on some of the other lead sources, because I'm only doing probate and sphere right now. But as a general rule of thumb, if I'm chasing a prospect that I don't have a relationship with, if I call you today and you don't answer, I'm gonna call you at least 2 more times today. I will get on my phone. I will get 15 or 20 unknown numbers that pop up on my phone today. The likelihood that I answer or return any of those calls is extremely slim when I don't know who they are and I see their number once. The likelihood that I'm going to even recognize the number and remember it and even think to go look is extremely slim. But if any of those numbers pop up on my screen 3 times today, it's going to stand out. So if I call anyone and they don't answer, they're going to get a minimum of 2 more calls from me that day. So let's count that day's calls to that particular number as a call unit. Normally at the end of that day, where I've called, haven't gotten them 3 times in a row, 4 times, I'll leave a message. I typically start pretty generic. If they've never heard from me before, it's, hey, sorry, I've called you a couple of times today. My name's Bruce Hill. I don't think we know each other. This is regarding the estate of Jane Doe. Would you call me back at this number? Kind of generic. It's about this. Call me. They ignore me. A few days later, I dial again. 3 times, 4 times. Obviously not if they answer. I want them being like, man, who is this? I've got to answer this call because it must be important. I've got to return this call. It must be important. I've seen the number multiple times. So second message is typically going, any subsequent messages are going to be the end of my call attempts for that day. Do I do that every day that I make call attempts? Probably not. But over the course of a month or so, I want them to see 9, 12, 15 call attempts, and they will probably have maybe 3 messages from me over that period of time. It's one reason why, personally, and this is just a strategy, it's not the strategy. Nobody here go, hey, Bruce said I need to do this, but it's one reason why I'll give it a couple of weeks before my first mailers go out, is I want to see if I can get them on the phone and then I don't need to cold mail them if I can talk to them on the phone. But if they've shown me over a couple of weeks that they're not going to respond to me, you bet. I'm okay. I go, well, phone isn't gonna necessarily be the thing that starts this relationship, so I better start mailing. Okay, a couple of months in, mail isn't getting it. Maybe I should go knock on the door. So my objective with any lead list is to get 50, 60% of the list to have engaged with me.
And
50 or
Bruce,
60%.
I know in the past we've talked about, and agents have shared with us that they'll leave a couple voicemails, and maybe the second or third time they'll call back immediately. And that seems to be, I know when somebody does that to me, I think, okay, it's not a spam call, it's not automated. If I hung up and they call back within 10, 15 seconds. Have you ever tried that? Do you think that's
I don't do it. I don't
You
like
don't do
it.
it? Okay.
Okay.
You think
There's
it's too deceptive?
tons of people on this call that will disagree with me, and I'm completely fine being disagreed with on this point. If somebody double dials me, it doesn't make me like them. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I don't double dial. Another thing that I don't do if somebody hangs up on me, and I've heard a bunch of people do this, I don't call them back and go, "Hey, I think we got disconnected." I freaking know they hung up on me. So I don't pretend they don't. That's just me. There's people that have different opinions on that and are successful with their different opinions, but those are two things I don't do.
In college, I sold books door to door. They used to tell if somebody slams the door in your face, go around to the side door and say, "Boy, you seem a lot nicer than the guy that answered the front door." And believe it or not, I actually did that. And most of the time they would laugh.
Okay.
But every once in a while they'd pull a gun. No, I didn't have any weapons, but sometimes
Hey,
it would really make them mad.
maybe I feel spiteful. I will double dial someone if I actively want to tick them off. And you guys may not know this side of me. Sometimes I actually do want to make someone mad, and I'll I'll do that. Not a prospect though.
Steve?
So I think Bruce makes a really good point. I mean, several good points is there's no one way. I know when I speak to subscribers that look, here's some ideas that have worked. I don't know what's going to work best for you, what you feel most comfortable with, but to think that there's one way, even like the scripts that all the leads have published, like in pre-probate or probate, they're 6 pages long. Look at them, see what works for you, put it in your own voice, and determine what's going to be best. I totally agree with Bruce. If you're dialing numbers and somebody dials you, you don't know who they are, because guarantee with all the numbers you're dialing, you're not going to remember who they are. And the last thing you want to do is take a live call. I never take a live call. In fact, I'll look at it after my time is over. When I'm dialing out, I'll go, okay, who is this person? I'll go look them up, find out who they are, so I have a little bit of information when I call them back. And all I do is, hey, I'm sorry, I missed your call. I was on the phone. Telling them the truth, right? Dialing out. Now I dial in and I know who they are. And I don't sound like I'm somebody who doesn't know what's behind door number 1 or door number 2. Because that's the worst thing you want to do, because you're trying to build confidence in somebody who doesn't know you. So the worst thing you want to do is you start offering information and they're wrong. It's kind of like the other day. Yeah, I get phone calls and I love picking up the phone, and I'll usually dial, I'll wait, I'll count to 3. And I can hear the dialer kick in. This person's there. And a person goes, Mr. Lesky. I was like, nope, you have the wrong number. And I hang up because I know what they're doing. All right. Or worse yet, somebody trying to tell me what my mail is. I had that happen the other day too. It was like, no, that information's incorrect. And no, have a nice day. And I'm not rude to them, but I understand. And you know what? I think we all, when you dial, and I agree, Bruce, there are some people I've talked to, it's like they kind of tick me off. It's like, I'm feeling my oats today. I think I really want to tick this person off, because I don't care if I'm going to work with them or not. And that's the thing. You need to understand, you get to decide who you work with and who you don't. Okay. And don't ever lose sight of that. All right. If somebody gets really rude or whatever, and you're in that mood, hey, okay, I'm not going to call. Maybe I'll call them if the mood strikes me in a week or two, I put a note in the CRM, maybe I'll call it back. Maybe not. All right. Because a lot of folks want to move on, and you're going to move on too. And don't chase someone that clearly doesn't want your assistance.
I think one of my original coaches said, don't be attached to the outcome. And the beauty of it is if you have multiple sources of leads like we offer and you have multiple ways to market to them, next, move on to the next one. It's not that important that you need to chase somebody more than they want to be chased. So great point. Hey, Bill, before I want to throw it out there to everybody, please chime in questions. We're looking for our win of the week. David in Hawaii, you don't have a win this week? Come on. You seem to have one every week. Bill, to finish up that conversation though, how do you leave voicemails on divorce and late mortgage? And if so, how do you do that?
Normally I don't leave messages, but every once in a while there'll be a really friendly voicemail and I just do it, but I never say I'm a realtor. And I just leave my phone number, and maybe 10% of the time I get a call back. But the thing I really learned with divorces is don't leave the message. You want to get them on the phone. Whether you're going to use the great script that you gave with your home magically raised its hand, or you want to ask them whether or not they're selling their home or not. Most people in divorce are going to get pretty direct, that I have found. And they're either friendly or they're not. And you just want to make sure that you listen really well and offer ideas and solutions, and don't go to directly selling the house. What I really learned is somebody always wants to buy out the other person, it seems like, right? So get them in touch with a lender, and then offer them a free CMA. Now, the best thing that I have is when the divorce comes in, is putting them in HomeBot, and that seems to pique their curiousness, and they want a CMA. And like I said, I send them up my full listing presentation and a leather binder, and it seems to have worked really, really well for me.
Right. And you bring up a great point. I mean, all the vendors that you're going to use in a probate are going to be the same vendors for a divorce or a late mortgage. And there's a couple additional ones. I know we did that call with, I think it was Lizzie with the Society of Divorce Professionals, and she said with divorce, you really need to help the whole family, not just the parents. And she always knew what the ages of the kids were when she went on an appointment, and she always came with a list of properties that were available in the same school district. And that took a lot of aggravation off the decision makers that, hey, our kids, maybe they don't need to change school. Maybe we can sell the house and buy something else in the same district. So little things like that are unique to every lead source are great. Add as many service providers as you can, but it's the same basic core of people for probate, divorce, and late mortgage. And of course, every time I ask, David, you just come for the $100 every week. I know. Come on. David's
I was
always
planning on leaving my hand down this week.
Hey, I asked for it, so I got it. You got a win for us this week, David?
I think I have a win, though. I'm actually kind of excited about it.
Good. Fire away, please.
So I'm making calls. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I've been making calls, and on this particular, some of them I send a little text afterwards, and some of them I don't. No really rhyme or reason, I guess. But on this one, I sent a little text message with a little bio of myself and my family. This is a long time ago, probably not that long ago, 3 weeks ago or so. And it was just a country home. And she called me day before yesterday. She called me. And we talked, and I ended up getting a listing contract. And it was away from my house. So in a country area. It was a long drive. So what I did was, rather than give away a whole referral to another agent or bogging my system down with me driving an hour and a half, I called a newer agent and said, "Hey, look, how about you work do all the boots on the ground, and I'm just going to give you a flat fee type of a deal." And she was super happy to do that. And so that's what I did. I did a flat fee thing. I gave her two options. I said, either I can pay you per thing that you do, like $100 for every time you go to the house, or $50 or whatever, and or I'm just going to give you a flat fee, a couple $1,000 at close. And she's like, "Hey, I'll take the couple $1,000 at close. Happy to have the experience." So we locked that in. I did an agreement with her so that way she can take care of that listing. And then we signed a contract, so we're off and running.
David, is that another agent, a new agent in your brokerage?
Yeah, I've done this a few times with agents in my brokerage and out. This particular one is in my brokerage, but yeah, I'm not picky. If I can't find anyone in my brokerage, I'll get someone outside of my brokerage to do it.
David,
My brokerage doesn't always like that, but
that is so smart. I've had so many conversations with agents over the years that, they're in Maricopa, Arizona, or they're in Los Angeles. They're in this massive market where they just pick certain zip codes and just junk the rest of the leads. And the one thing I always start by telling them, remember, is if the house is empty, you're not going to have to promise to do open houses. You probably go one time and put a lockbox on. It's probably worth an hour's drive. And secondly, there's somebody that will take that for a generous referral fee, but usually, they give away 75% and get a 25% referral. So what you did was kind of brilliant. You kept the lion's share of the commission, and you found somebody that was glad to do the legwork for you. So, I mean, that's a really good combination. I think that's a great way to do it. That's very smart. And yes,
yeah.
it does qualify for the $100 too. So you're always, yeah.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Tim, you had something you were going to add?
Oh, I was just going to comment that, it's always good to do that. The other thing you're doing as you do that, you're building a group of agents around your market there that, you've got a team now to work with, they love it because you've given them money. You've proven you're reliable on your end. Next time you're looking for help, you got a built-in group of people to work with. That's an awesome way to do that.
Yeah, I've been doing that on all the different islands now, because for the past years I was just giving away referrals, and I thought, I'm working so hard to get these listings. I feel like I'm doing all the work, and then I'm just giving them away for like 20 or 30%. And I felt ripped off actually. So I thought I need to figure out some new system on how to do this. And I stole the per Aaron payment from Redfin, because Redfin does that with their agents. They'll pay all the new agents without any transactional experience. They pay him per deal, like per open house, per showing. And I thought, wow, that's a great model. And a lot of newer agents are game because they don't have anything in the pipeline. They have no experience. And so it's a win-win, and it saves money.
Now,
And David, I would think a significant percentage of your deals in Hawaii are probably absentee executors, right? They're not living in the house. Is that the majority of them, or is it pretty well split up?
It's pretty well split up. It's
Okay.
kind of the Wild West over here. You get a little bit of everything.
Because you could even work the other islands. I think you're on the Big Island, but you could work the other two. And if you're talking to somebody in California, do the same model with another agent on the other island. That's really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool. That's great.
I'll keep you posted on how it goes, but I think it'll go just fine.
Hey, just
Perfect.
Melinda had asked about short codes in the CRM and all that, and Jessica, one of our MISs, is going to reach out to you after the call and walk you through all that. So we just wanted to know that you put it in chat, and certainly we're going to get on with it for you. That's exactly what we're here for, and she'll help you out with getting that done.
And Joe Facendo, I appreciate your comment. He had that out of town banner. And let's talk about after the call. Maybe we can do something to help you with that. Reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you after the call. But no harm done, man. I noticed it. It's very unique, so I'd like to talk to you about it. I see a couple other familiar faces here. I see some veterans. Ed Clem's on the call. Ed, what's going on in Tennessee? If you want to share, he's kind of a newcomer. We got Peter. Who else? Michael White. Who else has a win or a question? Colette Mayers. I see you've been around a long time. We got a lot of veterans on this call. You guys must have some words of wisdom to share. Raise your hand and share. Anybody have a win of the week they want to compete with David? Winston, how's your move been going from California to Alabama? You haven't had any cultural changes there, have you?
Cam's got his hand up, bud.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, Cam.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, buddy. Good.
Good. I'm good. I woke up this morning. No right to complain, right? But quick question. So I came across a property. This is more of a question. I don't know if you guys have ran into this. I came across a property. I was actually door knocking. I go across the street and then I see this like beat up house. And long story short, house is in a trust. But the lady died at like 101, but her kids predeceased her. So I go down to City Hall, I try to pull the information, all that fun stuff. And there is like her taxes are starting to build up because, no one's lived there in so long. Or, I don't know if anyone actually owns it now, but I wanted to know if it was like possible. Like, let's say she doesn't have any heirs or beneficiaries or anything like that. Like, how could I go about either owning it or finding the next in line or the heirs and beneficiaries?
When did she decease?
2019.
So this is not probate. You just kind of found this kind of like driving for dollars almost.
Yeah, no, definitely driving for dollars. I ran into it, and I just didn't know if I would have to probate it. I just kind of lost and didn't know if. I mean, it's a really nice house in a super nice area, and they have a bunch of new builds, blah blah blah. But yeah, it looks like a great opportunity. I just wanted to know if it like if she doesn't have any heirs or beneficiaries, is it even possible to deal with this?
I'd be curious to see if anyone else already pursues this kind of business. It's not the first time that I've had this come up recently. It's not business that I've pursued, but I would go to the county's tax office. It might be the clerk's office. I'm not sure. But I would go to the county's tax office and kind of ask them when properties are taken back and how they're disposed of, probably on an auction site or something. But I would definitely go in and ask them how that's customarily handled.
So I went into did just that, the assessor's office, and they're like, they didn't really have any good information for me. I don't want to say it like that, but they didn't have the right. I don't even want to say that. They didn't give me the information that I was kind of asking. So I did ask just this group for probate. They're not probate. They're estate planning professionals, and one was just like I should go down to the registry of deeds and see if I can find who the trustees are, and if I can't find the trustees, see if I can find who notarized the document and call them and work from there. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Cam, Michael suggested that you check with the clerk of the court. I think that's different than the assessor's office, correct?
The clerk of the court. And another quick question. So, and the name is different everywhere, like the public admins or public administrators. Someone told me about that, but it's when I tried to pull that up in Massachusetts, that's not what it's called. So I'm trying to figure out what it's called here, but more or less it's public administrators, they administer the estate for problems like this. I'm just trying to also figure out the name for it here.
Cam, is the house titled to the trust?
Yes. And I also found something really cool. One of my friends is a tax assessor. He told me if I type in, like, so I live in Massachusetts, obviously, but let's say Boston. I'll type in Boston, GIS, and then type in the person's last name, and then all their property and everything like that comes up. You know, it's actually something cool he showed me. But yeah, it did not, and I can do it with a trust, but it didn't. Nothing popped up for them, at least. You know, so.
So the title for the property is in the trust. So obviously they've started estate administration, either probate or intestate or a trust. So something's been started if title's transferred into the name of the trust.
Hold on, so I'm confused. So, well, it was already in a trust before she died,
Okay.
and her kids died or predeceased her.
Do they have kids?
That's exactly. So I don't know. I looked up the obituary and none of that popped up. You know, usually it'll say like, John, you know, died and had 2 kids, Mary and Beth, and then Beth had kids or whatever. None of that popped up. So I don't know if I'm just kind of chasing my tail with this one, but this is like a super great deal.
I was going to say, Cam, the more resistance, the bigger the opportunity. Sometimes I don't think you're certainly going to have no competition with this one.
Oh yeah,
if there's absolutely no heirs, eventually it'll go to the county or the state, and they probably want to liquidate it really cheap, I would think. But Bruce, couldn't the clerk of, if there is a trust and it's recorded, couldn't the clerk of the court provide him with a copy of the trust and see who the attorney was?
Not all trusts are recorded.
They're not all recorded? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna go to the registry of deeds and see if I can finesse it that way. Do you think that would work?
So the clerk's office is the one that handles the registry of deeds. So go into the clerk's office and see, and then I would most likely look into a more advanced skip tracing service, because I don't know what you're using to skip trace.
Well, I got White Pages, I got PropStream, and I also have White Papers, PropStream, and Spokey, however you say it.
Yeah.
Most, yeah.
But most of the time when I pull my list, they already skip trace. Like I just have them do it, you know.
Be aware of this. Somebody somewhere is getting a tax bill on that property every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody knows an address and all the things necessary to make that happen. The other thing is that the legal authorities know who to contact, and you know, if something happened to that property, you know, if legal proceedings happened, or you know, it turned into a crack house or something like that, gotta know who to contact to get that done. So the data is there. You just have to dig harder to go get it. Sheriff Pat, you got a comment about that? Unmute yourself there.
Yeah, Cam's a buddy of mine. I just wanted to chime in with him real quick, and for the group purposes, you know, I'm the former register of probate in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. So what Kim's been talking about is there's a lot of intricacies to this as to whether or not, you know, this is even in the probate court or not. He talked about the public administrator process, and we don't want to go down that road. That's the last minute process that every county in Massachusetts has public administrators appointed to actually do exactly what we're trying to do here as probate investors. And in the event there's nobody that steps up and takes care of the property, a public administrator will jump in. And complicated estates like this usually require the assistance of a genealogist to really help hone in on who the actual heirs are. At which point the investor can really reach out, contact, and help out to get those heirs. And it could be the second cousin 3 times removed, but as long as you get the actual person, you can figure that out. The fact that it's in a trust adds to the complication, only because you got to get that trust document to see exactly what it says, and find out whether or not any beneficiaries relative to the trust are still alive, whether or not they, you know, if they in fact died, if there's some clause in there that talks about that the trust property at some point reverts back to the original trust, original settlor, which would then put it into the probate process. So complicated thing, Cam, on that one. I'm happy to tag team with you on it and give you whatever advice I can on it. We can do some script tracing together and hunt the courthouses and all kinds of stuff to figure out where that stands. So it is a complicated one, and that's why we have a mastermind here to chat with each other about it.
Love it. So I'm gonna bother you after the call. You know, I'm gonna call you, but yeah, I'll call you after the call so I can kind of articulate it. But I'm actually gonna head down there now too. Thank you.
You reminded me probably 20 years ago when my wife and I were selling real estate. We got a call from one of our longtime customers and said, "I want to sell my house quickly, real cheap." And we said, "Geez, are you in trouble?" They said, "No, we just inherited like a 20-acre property outside of DC from somebody we never heard of. Apparently, there was a remainder deed, and like you just said, a genealogist tracked them down. It appears that they were the next of kin." So they had a huge windfall. So that kind of stuff does happen.
So how cool would that be if I just like find this property and the family's like, "Oh, we did not know." That is going to be so cool.
You are that old enough to remember. It'd be like Ed McMahon showing up in your doorstop that you just won the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Oh, my goodness. Like, yeah, by the way, you just won a freaking beautiful house in Tingsboro, and you know.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be fun to deliver that news?
That'd be super awesome.
That's great. Thanks for offering to help, Patrick. You go by Sheriff or Patrick? And were you?
I am currently the sheriff of Norfolk County now. I did the probate court for 18 years, and now I'm in the sheriff space. So for 18 years, I couldn't do any probate real estate stuff. I've been an investor for 30 years in real estate back and forth, but I could never touch the probates because of a conflict of interest. Technically, now I'm sheriff. So what I was doing before was pre-foreclosures and other stuff that I couldn't touch. I can't touch today because we do foreclosures and eviction notices as sheriff. So I'm switching now over to probates because I can do them now, and I have an actual knowledge on how these things get processed through the court, how to data mine within Massachusetts at least, and some of that is relevant across the country too.
That's great. So the new sheriff in town, obviously. Good.
Pun intended.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
I could not. Absolutely not. Well, we're coming up on 5 minutes of the hour, guys. Who wants to be last or second to last? What else can we help you with? Tim, anything you want to go over from a company perspective this week?
The only thing I was going to go over is that we don't want to drag it out. If this is it for the day, then we're close to the top of the hour. Take one more round. If anybody's got anything, raise your hand. I'm watching the screen and don't see anybody's hands up. And if not, Jimmy, it's time to say goodbye. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, there we go. Level just under the wire level.
All right, bud. Unmute yourself.
I just have a quick question. Are the taxes up to date on that property in question?
Yeah, I think he said when we started that they were starting to pile up. Thought I heard
because
during that.
The reason why here in California, if the property taxes have not been paid in 5 years and you cannot locate the heirs, then there's a process, at least here in the state of California, that he can actually acquire the property by paying the taxes and paying the taxes again with a minimum of 5 years before the state takes it back, and they will they'll give him they'll give him a deed. They'll give him the deed. So
we technically don't have that in Massachusetts. It's a great provision, but it's definitely not part of Massachusetts law to do that. Usually it requires some moving party to move forward. There's not like an automatic kick in on that in Massachusetts. So sometimes the towns will take over depending on the condition of the property. There is a provision in Massachusetts law that they can petition through a health code violation or a vacant property, blighted property, local ordinance with the Attorney General to actually get a receiver in place. But once again, danger zone there is that once a receiver is in place, it's part of the real big public domain. And now you're in a competition with other investors that are going to come at that property because the receiver's only goal is to get it back on the tax rolls. And once I've done a couple of deals with receivers, and it's not a pleasant process. You can get through there, but you don't want it in the public domain. That's the name of the game. So if we can track that down locally here, Cam is going to be all the better off. I wish we had something like that technically in Massachusetts, but we don't.
Yeah, no worries.
Go ahead, Lovell. Sorry.
No worries. I was just inquiring because that's it appears that it might be relatively exclusive to the state of California, but it's a process that an individual, a non-heired individual, can in fact take advantage of and acquire a property. It's called receiving the property by prescription.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Great to know. Great to know.
Patrick, I was going to comment to Cam that if he does go to the clerk of the court or down looking for some governmental help, don't apologize. He's doing them a big favor, getting the taxes paid, getting a vacant property occupied. But what I hear you saying is that could be dangerous to do that, right? You might trigger a process that is not necessary by doing that.
When I was registered at probate, I had an obligation in Massachusetts. It's not a statute, but once the clerk of court is made aware of a property that is without heirs, I had an obligation as the clerk to contact the public administrator. And the public administrator is similar to the receiver in the blighted property ordinance. The public administrator comes right in, bang, bang, gets the property ready for sale, puts it up on the market, and it's off to the races. They work very quickly. There's only about 3 to 5 of them within each county. And there's very few cases that come before the clerks, but it was an obligation for the clerk to notify the public administrator when a situation like this came up. And so
at that point,
that's the only
Cam,
process.
and at that point, Cam would have the competition of the open market. He'd have to bid against other investors.
Correct.
And he you're saying much better off determining and finding an heir and working with them up front to buy it.
His due diligence will pay off in terms of the basically he would be the exclusive investor that's coming in, helping out mostly especially if it's an abandoned property. There sometimes isn't like any family around, and then bottom line, this is a windfall for somebody that you can make somebody's day very happy, like the Ed McMahon thing. Very good analogy.
Thank you. And Cam's trying to comment, but he's muted. If we can unmute him.
Click on unmute.
Yeah,
Cam?
sorry guys. I muted myself. Yeah, so okay, so damn train of thought. So basically we do have personal admins here. That's to start with the question. We do have personal administrators here in Massachusetts.
Personal
But I don't
representatives.
want to go through them because basically they would just be opening me up to the vultures.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll get you there, Cam. I got you covered.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna give you.
And the only other suggestion that came in, someone typed it in, and there was asking if there had been a will at some point that might have been probated in regard to this, even though it is in a trust. Maybe there were other assets or whatever. Maybe a will was probated at some point in regard to that. If you check with the clerk of the court to find if there had been a will in the name of the decedent, there could be an attorney attached to that will. And the attorney might be able to tell you a bit more about the family tree.
Yeah, awesome.
No doubt. Yeah, we're going to be able to hook that up as soon as I get a name from Cam. We're going to go right online, find out at the courthouse if there's anything there. And if there is, then at least we have some initial start to that.
All right. Great, guys. That's great. Well, guys, it's 2:01. This has been an interesting topic, interesting day as always. Jimmy, do your thing, buddy.
All right, another great example of teamwork here. Cam, I want a video of you showing up on that doorstep if it happens, please, too. You got to share that with us. But I want to thank each. It was great to be back, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Particularly thank Winston, Bruce, Bill, Steve, our weekly winner of the week, David, Joe, Cam, Sheriff Patrick, and Lovell. And I want to challenge each of you. We had a lot of great ideas on this call. Just take one idea that inspired you. Go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.